Get on down to Fright.
Pretty damn good. Charlie, can you turn me down just 25%?
Turn you down? Yeah, down.
Okay. Little volume, please.
You need more.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's good.
Couldn't find my reading glasses.
Yep.
Like $10 or $15.
You still need more, Adam?
That's good.
It's gonna rain right everywhere. Don't tread on me, I'm American free. I'm gonna take it away.
A little bit more.
Problem is, you're plugged into the main.
I don't know. Okay.
That's killing everybody else.
Still being there.
It's on.
That's all right.
Stand by. Mics are hot.
All right, welcome to Armed Alabama. Glad you can join us tonight. We're so glad you tuned in to listen to us here on Armed Alabama. We've got a good show for you. Of course, this is our favorite night of the week to be here in the studio to be able to talk to you about our favorite subject, and that is firearm self-defense, ammo selection, home protection, concealed carry, training, proper range etiquette, of course, Alabama law, Mississippi law, Florida law, and federal law. Of course, joining me in the
And
studio.
saving the Republic.
Of course, joining me in the studio is the always funny Judge Johnson. We're glad to have him here tonight. And also joining us in the studio is Gary Mozingo, Lieutenant Colonel, United States Army, retired. So we're going to take the opportunity between now and Veterans Day to highlight local veterans who have a really good story, contributed to the local area, and we're glad to have Mr. Gary Mozingo here in the studio with us tonight. And if you want to call or comment anything that we have going on tonight, give us a call here at the studio, 251-604.
No, that's your personal number.
251-343-0106. Lord have mercy. I've still got the little bit of pneumonia left.
Call him after midnight.
Yeah, no, don't
Ignore what he just said.
Don't call him. So also you can visit us on Facebook. We are simulcasting live as always on our Facebook page, and that's Armed Alabama Radio, FM Talk 106.5. Please like, save, and follow while you're there. And that way you'll be notified every time that we post something on our Facebook page or go live, as of course tonight. We also want to thank our advertisers, and we want to thank our newest advertisers, and that is Mike Ward's Liberty Safe. And we also want to thank McCoy Outdoors, whom I just visited and purchased a Glock 17 Judge to get ready for the
Did they have
match.
Arnold Schwarzenegger's what was it? Phase 3 plasma rifle?
Yeah, phase plasma
Okay.
rifle in
Yeah.
a 40-watt range?
Yeah.
No, they didn't have that.
Sold out. With the
They sold
Terminator
it out.
used to.
They were waiting on the new one, the 60-watt
Oh, good.
range phased plasma rifle. So anyway, if you have a comment, definitely shoot us a message on Facebook Live. We will definitely try to answer them. You can also text us to the station, and that number is 251-343-0106. Of course, you can call that same number. We would like to hear from you. Of course, if you remember last week, we had in the studio with us was Frank Cassidy, Captain Frank Cassidy of the Mobile County Sheriff Department, and he was here talking about the Glock Shooting Sports Foundation event that was this past weekend. If you didn't attend it, you missed a good time. It was an awesome event. Myself and my daughter attended the event. 10 years old, was her first time at a Glock match. It was my first time at a Glock match. We had a good time. Of course, as I said before, Gary Mozingo is joining us here in the studio. And Gary, we really are thankful that you joined us tonight, and we appreciate you being here on the show.
And I'm sure Gary knows this is the 100th anniversary of Armistice Day, which we morphed into Veterans Day. We don't have the poppies and all that anymore. But yeah, this 100th anniversary, that's hard to believe.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming. And I actually had, I've got some whole sheet right here, front and back. It says Gary notes. So there's a lot to digest here. So it's a pretty well unique story that you have. And so I won't try to tell it. I'll let you tell it in your own words. But I realized today, it was like that we've been knowing you, the judge, and myself for quite some time.
At least 10 years.
Yeah, over 10 years. Yeah, over 10 years. And we came to meet you at your facility there in Gunport, First Class Arms Training. A really, really nice place. If you haven't been there, you need to go and check it out. It's in the south part of Mobile County in Cody, Alabama on Highway 188. Really nice range, nice facility. You got shotgun range, you have pistol range there, you have a rifle range, and also a trap and skeet range there, a wobble trap you have.
Well,
And of course, after you take that right, Gary, at the end of Bellingrad Road, what is it, about 2 miles?
2.5 miles.
Okay.
We've got it won't be finished until next week, but we've, over the past 3 weeks, put in a 2 standard of the National Skeet Shooting Association range.
Oh, great.
And it's really done as the ones where they shoot the championship matches.
Gary, tell skeet and trap. I mean, we all know, but tell people out there what the difference is, generally.
Well,
Not the little rules, but the
Trap.
tower and all.
right. The trap machine,
No, he's talking.
the trap machine is, I thought, well, let's look this back.
I guess it comes out of the central house. She's in front of you, kind of.
The trap machine throws basically to the front, and you don't know whether it's going to throw left, right, up, or down. So each time it comes out, it's a surprise to you as to which direction it takes. Skeet machine, or the skeet throwers, you have a high house on the left, a low house on the right, and those birds will cross in a hula hoop at the center. It's about 13 feet high, 15 foot high. And I built that because of the schools. I think we're going to see the
Thank
schools.
goodness.
I think we're going to see the schools really get into skeet shooting.
You know, I turn on the TV and I see schools in Massachusetts and Michigan, and I think every kid down here has got a shotgun, or used to, in the back of his truck. And why aren't we doing that? And good for you.
My understanding is that's the fastest growing sport for
In a sport, you keep a lifetime, unlike football. You're not playing football when you're 60.
right.
Great.
When we got the 460-yard range, we got the Hogan's Alley, where all we do there is just train.
Yeah, we know about that. Listen, I think you have the only Hogan's Alley in this area.
Yeah, I believe he does. Gary, how we got to know you is of course, through the range or whatever, but you spent quite a period of time in the United States Army, but you actually, when you graduated high school, you enlisted in the Army, and then when you enlisted, you served in Germany, and then you went into the OCS training program. Tell us a little bit about that and your time in the military, your time in the Army, your time in Germany, of course, and also your time in Vietnam.
Let me go back to Murphy a little bit. Let me put a story in there that kind of puts one of my teachers in perspective. I wanted to be a soldier and just wanted to get out of school and go do it. And I wanted to quit school. And my mother told me, no, you need to stay and finish. Being the good boy that I was, I minded what she said. However, I found out at 16 that I could go into the BOE program, and I could go to work at Delshamps in the afternoons and then take the minimum, courses.
Gary, they used to have a lot of that. We had always had a secretary that was like at Satsuma, Sarah Land, and she was doing that in the afternoon typing for us.
Right.
It was great.
Well, I had to take the, English. I'll get back to that.
1 second, Gary. We'll be right back after this break with more Armed Alabama and Lieutenant Colonel Gary Mozingo, retired.
Remember to
I thought it
subscribe
was going to
to
be too wet to say anything. Jack. It was me.
Step up to the firing line. Is back. Questions, comments, and texts at 343-0106.
Let's just go in. I can't find the line right there.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we're back with more Armed Alabama. Of course, joining us in the studio here is Gary Mozingo. We're highlighting, we're taking this opportunity between now and Veterans Day to highlight local veterans that has served in the military. We are glad to have Gary Mozingo here in the studio. So just before the break, Gary, you started telling us about being in high school, wanting to be a soldier, and then, of course, wanting to go on and enlist into the Army.
I was talking about the English teacher. Her name was Miss Elure Moore. And she came to my desk at the back of the room where I was in name tag defilade and told me to get my books and my lunch, come up. She put me right in front of her desk and she said, "You have an ability to write, and I'm going to help you create or develop that this year." I thought that was awful astute on her
Wow.
part. Yeah. Well, she wrote in my yearbook, she said, "I'm writing in your yearbook just like I wrote on your papers in red and ink. Believe it or not, I enjoyed having you in class." I joined the Army. I got to Fort Jackson, heard taps after the drill sergeants had really talked bad about everything we knew and the way we acted. And thought 3 years is a long time. And Mobile's a long, long way away. Got over that, I learned to soldier. Then I went out to Fort Leonard Wood, became a pioneer in the combat engineers, and then was selected for a combat construction specialist school. I went to that. We were supposed to come on leave. They told us there'd been a change there the later part, like about a week before we were supposed to come home, and they sent us to Fort Dix. Went to Germany on a troop ship, got off over there and went to my unit. We spent 9 months out of the year in the field. 50% could be on pass. The squad leaders decided who was on pass, who would go on pass and who wouldn't. We had alert twice a month.
Gary, you were right there when the tensions were as high as they could be.
Well, I was there when they built the wall.
Yeah. Oh,
We also were Cinderellas. At midnight, we had to be in bed or you lost the strike. We could stay out till 1 o'clock on Fridays, or excuse me, Saturdays. We always had alert twice a month, and you went down, got clothes, went down, got your rifle, went to the motor pool, loaded up the truck, went out to the assembly area and waited. One morning, we got up, did those things, but instead of going to the assembly area, we went and got the demo trailers. We went out to the bridges that we were supposed to blow, took the TNT off, filled the sandbags, strung the wire, dug our fighting positions on the friendly side of the bridge, and listened to the radio. And I was as scared that morning as I've ever been in my life. That was the Cuba crisis.
yeah.
We sat out there for a week waiting for it to be called off and Russian blamed. I enjoyed the military. I'd been to demo mines and booby trap school, changed my MOS. I'd been to the 3rd Infantry Division NCO Academy twice. And then I re-enlisted for 6 years. All the guys that were getting out said, "Well, if you can't make it on the outside, go ahead and re-enlist." Well, took me a quick burst of 6. And I was excited when I got my orders because I was coming back to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, home with the 82nd Airborne, 18th Airborne Corps and Special Forces. And when I got there, I found out I was a leg. Well, non-paratrooper qualified soldiers don't get to join in the game. There was no chance of making E6. I've already got now a wife and 2 children. Each night I went to the company commander and said, "What do I need to do to get promoted?" He said, "Well, you could go to jump school and get an 82nd. I said, "I don't like them guys over there." He said, "Well, you could go to OCS." I said, "Where's the paperwork?" filled it out. I went to Benning School
That's the
for
officer
boys.
candidate school for
Yeah.
people
Went
that.
to Benning School for boys, and they talked bad about us that first couple of days. I knew they quit when they got the lights out. Finally, after 6 months, on the way out of the mess hall, they had a board there with everybody's name on it. And you could check schools. And I said, well, I don't want to be a leg anymore, so I checked jump school. And then that Ranger tab looks really good over there on your left sleeve, so I checked that. And jump
If you
school.
like excitement, that's the
Yep,
most
yep.
one to be in.
Jump school was a snap. I mean, we could outrun the NCOs and whatever else. And then we went to Ranger School and thought it would be that way. Never was I ever tired or less sleep or hungry than I was there, and work on less information. Damn good school to find out who you are. Then I went to Rooker and was a platoon leader there. Wonderful duty. Had my family with me in quarters. And then there was an opening in the Pathfinder unit. So that was jump phase. So I needed to get over there and get that. So I went back to Benning to Pathfinder school and came back, served with that unit about 6 months, and then I got my orders to Vietnam. I went back to Bragg and went through Military Advisor Assistance Training School, and then went to California Language School, and then went to Vietnam. My first 4 months, I was Assistant Senior Advisor to a battalion that didn't want to get off the hill. And that was very frustrating. And then insult to injury, they pulled us back and put us in Division Reserve. And I was fed up about that time. Then they pulled myself and a Marine Staff Sergeant out and assigned us to the 2nd Division Reconnaissance Company. We went out on an operation and stayed 10 days just west of the foe. We medevaced 25 of 120 that we took out there. And I didn't know it at the time, but we had infiltrated through a regiment. And then they inserted that battalion that I was in before to come out to secure this river base they were looking there to develop into a port. And that battalion lost 100 that morning. Of course, their strength was about 500. We got back out that operation, and Byerly and I really wanted to go in that unit. We really liked hand-picked volunteers. The commander would fight. And they told us we couldn't, and then the division commander talked to Colonel Laux, who was a senior advisor, and they changed their mind that we would be able to work with them. So that last 8 months, we went out and tit for tatted with Charles. I could get naval gunfire, airstrikes, artillery, and spooky at night. And I could get medevacs if the Marines didn't need the helicopters. I finished up that tour. I came back to Benning.
Were you there for TET, or did you leave before TET?
No, I was there for TET 67,
Yeah.
but not 68.
Which we won, of course, both, but you
Right.
never know that.
So I got back to Benning and was assigned to tactical department. And then I saw one of my friends, Jim Womble, saw him in the club. And he asked me, well, what are you here now? What are you doing? I said, well, I'm a tactical department. He said, why don't you come out to the Ranger Training Command, because they want some guys out there. And I said, we're going to sign up here. Went out and I served 2 years there. 1 year as a lane instructor, and then 1 year as a branch chief for one of the operations we had there. I finished that up. I went back to Vietnam with an allocation to the CAV. And I commanded the 11th Pathfinders for 6 months, and then Alpha Company 2nd and 7th for 6 months. And then I came back to the States. I went through the career course, went to the recruiting command for a while, and then on up to Dix.
Did you ever actually do any recruiting?
Yes. Well,
People tell me
Primarily-
that's not their favorite.
primarily I got quotas. It's just like sales.
Yeah.
Same thing. You got
Yeah.
quotas and you got to do it. That one, the judges were our primary folks that helped us
Yeah.
get the Army full of. I came out a few years after that, and came back to Mobile and needed to finish up my time in the service. So I came out with about 15 years, and I finished up my time, part of it there in the 1184th Outport, which was a reserve unit over on Hertel Street.
Yeah.
Right directly across from Maine's.
Mhm.
And I saw him build that reserve center while I was in high school. I finished that up after, and then I had my 20 good ones. So I stepped out, and then Branch called me and asked me if I'd accept the Mob-Des assignment in Heidelberg. And I accepted that.
I've been there. That's a nice place. So
Very
gotta
nice
go
place.
somewhere.
So I met and married my wife my first tour over there. And so I could take her back and take her home. She could stay with her family while I was serving there. And then we'd finish up about 3 weeks of duty there and then go back and pick up her and the family. And we'd go out on the excursions over to Austria or wherever else. Really a good way to end up my service.
Yeah.
I wanted, a little later on though, when we have more time, I want to talk about soldiers and what makes them tick from what I've seen at the time that I was serving.
Yes, sir. We're coming up to a break, but so one of the things I wanted to highlight here, Gary, you were talking about going to language school, but you're actually fluent in German. And so I find that really neat and fascinating. If you haven't tried to learn German, which I have, it's extremely hard, at least for me. I'm not that smart, but maybe that's why I'm behind the mic. But anyway, it's quite fascinating. I really like the German language, and I always enjoy listening to you speak it over the years.
You really wasn't speaking it. You just thought he was.
One of the things that you said was while you was over there, as far as taking a rifle fire, you learned real quick to revert back to your training and in basic training actually is getting your helmet on the ground and crawling out of the cemetery that you were in. And we're about to go into break, but I'll let you comment on that when we come back, and also talk about your facility, what you do there, the military SEAL Command training that you did. So it's really, really neat. Of course, with your background, it made you a good candidate to do that. So we're coming up to a break here, so we'll come back after the break with more Armed Alabama.
Welcome to the firing line. Armed Alabama is back. Questions, comments, and texts at 343-0106.
We've got here is failure to communicate. Some men you just can't reach. So you get what we had here last week, which is the way he wants.
Things any more than you meant. Gary, what movie did that come from? Oh yeah, Cool Hand Luke.
Well, what we
That was
have,
the warden.
what we have here is the
There's the same line. Yep.
All right, welcome back to Armed Alabama. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in to us tonight. We've got a good show, of course. Still a lot left for the show, and joining us in the studio here is Gary Mozingo, Lieutenant Colonel, United States Army, retired. And we are trying to highlight the local veterans in our area between now and Veterans Day. And Gary was gracious enough to grace us with his presence here in the studio, and we are very appreciative. Before we went to the break, Gary was providing some of his background as serving in the United States Army, and also talking about his time in Vietnam. And one of the things, Gary, I had got from your bio here is that when you were in Vietnam, you actually really had a close call with a gentleman with a machine gun.
Don't say gentleman. The police would always say the rapist then came out of the door and the gentleman ran after the woman with a butcher knife.
Yeah, I was being
Don't call him a
facetious.
gentleman.
Yeah, I was
I
being
know you
facetious
were.
with that. Yeah, but anyway, so you learned real quickly, what to do, what not to do. Revert back to your training. You a lot of things went through your mind there, judging from your bio. But one of the things that did come through your mind is some of your training from basic training, actually, and how to low crawl. You want to give us a rundown on that story?
We were qualifying. The Army had what they call remedial training or concurrent training. So when you have half the group doing one thing, the other half group needs to be involved and not sitting on their rear end doing something. We were out qualifying on the rifle range. My drill sergeant's name was Sergeant Roach. And we had already qualified. We were on the other side of the range. So he decided he was going to reinforce low crawl. And so we low crawled and we low crawled and we low crawled. And every time you raised your head, he had a swagger stick that he'd hit your helmet with. It sounded like Thor was beating on your helmet. He sounded like your head was in the Liberty Bell and Thor was beating on it. I'd never heard a shot fired for 7 years. And I was very fortunate. I'm going to come back to that.
You didn't have ear protection on?
They wasn't the right color. About the soldiers there, I'll come back to a couple of other things. But I don't know why I was at the rear end of the formation, but I was. As I started into that graveyard coming out, and there was a wood line behind it, somebody got very, very personal with me. And I crawled around behind got a little cover from one of the tombstones, but I couldn't stay there. I needed to move on further. And I said, well, maybe I can break for the wood line. And I looked at the rounds where they were hitting, and I knew I couldn't make that. So I went back to firefights I'd had before, went back to OCS, went to Ranger School, went back, I had to go back 7 years to Sergeant Roach, and us qualifying out there on that rifle range, and us in our concurrent training. And he appeared there and reviewed things, and didn't hit my helmet, but I was able to crawl out of there. One of the things that amazed me after I had been so long in the Army was that once we got to Vietnam, all of the stuff they taught us really worked if you would keep your presence of mind to fly. I did miss out one thing though. I needed to go back and take care of it, and that was guess what we had to do in OCS? We had to write. Guess what?
Ooh.
I could write.
Cursive too.
When I came home, I put on my uniform, shined up my boots and all my brass, and I went to Miss Moore's house and knocked on her door. And I showed her those cross rifles in my bar, and I said I could wear those because of the time you spent with me in high school. In retrospect, I shouldn't have wasted that time. I should have been in school.
I know that meant a lot to her, though.
She did. She actually even smiled.
Yeah. Well, she was a little lady that used to grab the big boys by the earlobe to control them. There was one there.
I don't know what she ever grabbed my ear.
Yeah.
She didn't have to. She could put a tongue.
Can you imagine back then, though? Let's say a petite lady controlling a 6'2" boy like that. They'd cut her throat down.
I want to talk about the different soldiers. We have peacetime soldiers and we have wartime soldiers. There are different things that are priorities during peacetime that aren't during wartime. And it's all preparation for when you do go to war. But it doesn't have the same finality that war does. Those men that go in during peacetime and learn how to soldier and then go to war, they know how to act when they come back, and they know what's going to be required of garrison duty and garrison soldiers. So that was an advantage that I had in my military career. The other thing I want to talk about is soldiers. Talk about the reason soldiers join the Army. Soldiers join the Army for mom, apple pie, ice cream, honor.
Girlfriends too, apparently. Girls saying you're a wimp if you don't join.
We see we see those things for the reasons that they join, but then we see the reason soldiers fight. And soldiers that go to war don't fight for mom apple pie and ice cream. They fight for each other. And they form bonds that will last a lifetime forever. And they won't be broken. And it's funny too, it's so unique. You can take soldiers in one company and they'll fight with each other. They'll disagree on things, they'll form cliques, and they'll have all kind of problems with each other until they go out and are associated with other people. Well, if anybody says anything about any one of them, there's going to be a fight. You got to fight the whole group. Soldiers are kind of unique too. In the way they fight to win. And if we handcuff them and keep them from winning, then we're doing them a disservice and ourselves.
Amen to that.
The other thing is that who are the heroes? You know, there are times where men have deserved medals of honor and have really distinguished themselves. There are other times when citizens have distinguished themselves. The man that answered the draft and didn't go to Canada, that was heroic. The man who was a conscientious.
And you know, very few did go to Canada. They want to make it out like it was a huge part of the propaganda campaign.
The men that were really truly conscientious objectors, but answered the call.
Yep.
And when they got over there, we primarily they were made medics. We called them lizards because they crawled so well. They crawl out there and get somebody wounded, bring him back.
Yeah.
And that's very heroic. But soldiers fight for each other. And I can tell you when it came time that it looked like we were getting overrun, those conscientious objectors defended their comrades. So those are some things I wanted to tell you about my military experience.
It's a good book, Gary. I can't remember the name, about conscientious objectors in World War II. They even volunteered for the most horrendous experiments. How long you could live on 500 calories a day. I mean, things like that. So it wasn't just, I don't want anything to do with this. They were participating.
The one other byproduct of military service is you will learn how to get along with people that you cannot get along with. Some way or another, you'll figure out how to get along with them. The other thing is you'll meet individuals that you'll form relationships with and friendships with that will last a lifetime. I still have people that I served with that I call once a month, or I'm checking on them because really and truly I am concerned about them. They're true comrades. And when we get through with this segment here, if y'all will stick me around for another few minutes, I want to talk a little bit about Gunport.
No, you're here at the end. You're here to the end.
Thank you.
We got a minute or so? And Gunport is open, 9 to sundown?
9 to 4:45.
And that's
every
every
day.
day.
Every day of the week.
And if you want to be a pro, back into your parking spot. Then people won't think you're a newbie.
Well, we've got a 9-minute video that's range safety and etiquette that everyone that comes down there has to take before they go out on the range. And that's just both safety for yourself and for the other shooters that are on the range.
Can't have too much safety.
No. Well, that's the thing about it. You don't run with scissors and you don't point guns at people that you or anything you're going to shoot.
Right.
But I'll get into our training here a little later on.
Well, I'm excited to hear about the ski field. That's great. It's a real improvement. I'm not so big on clay. What do you call it? Sporting clay. So I don't know about that. Frankly, I'm terrible at those. All of a sudden, one flies out from the corner and rolls across the field. I like kind of predictability.
You got that with ski.
Yeah, right, exactly. You got a website, is it, I should have, gunport.com basically, or just Google Gunport.
Or first class arms.
Yeah, you'll find it. So, all right, folks, we'll be right back with more of Armed Alabama. Call us 251-343-0106. Nothing's wrong, but it's eventually wrong. Hey, Carl, this one's for you. Here we go. Love the smell of napalm in the morning. It smells like victory.
Welcome back to Armed Alabama. Glad you could join us and hang with us through the break here. Of course, if you were listening before the break, you know in the studio tonight is Gary Mozingo, Lieutenant Colonel, United States Army retired. And we are highlighting local veterans. And Gary was kind enough to come and visit us here in the studio. And Gary was talking about his time serving in the United States Army, also his time in Vietnam and his time in Germany, and of course, finishing out his term in the United States Army. After Gary retired, one of the things that he started doing was firearms training, and Gary opened Gunport, first class arms training, as a facility to conduct his firearms training. But he also done something really, I think was really neat, really liked, is the military Sealift command training. Gary, can you tell us a little bit about your facility, what your plans were with it, and what you had in mind with the MSC, and then what you did?
Yeah, I was very, very, very fortunate. I was training security guards, and they were taking a ship out in Pascagoula. And I trained up Pinkerton guys, went out on that ship to provide security. When they came back in, the captain called me and told me, he said, I really like the way those men handle themselves. MSC is gearing up for additional trainers. Would you be interested in that? And I said, well, prayers are answered. So I got my certificates done, got that submitted. I trained 6,278 qualified military Sealift command with M14 rifles,
Wow.
M9s, and Mossberg 500 shotguns.
And that's defended merchant mariners, including the hospital ship, used to be called the Hope. I don't know what it is now.
And the 20 vessels that know where all the submarines are in the world, exactly where they are and which ones they are. So in addition to that, I taught watchstander, basic and advanced, which consisted of mechanical advantage control holds, baton, and handcuffing. And then the other course that we taught, which I built a building to teach in, which resembles the shipboard reaction force, and that's how to get the pirates off the ship. I was very, very fortunate to have the experience and training that I did from the Ranger Training Command to present that to the mariners that I trained there. Consists of warning order, your route to the objectives, the mission, the danger areas, the rally points, and then your objective rally point, and then clearing rooms. And I've got rooms in that building that open every way known to man, so you're not going to walk up to one that they hadn't seen before.
Gary, I was down there a lot when there were some good guys you were training too. Yeah, they looked kind of like ragamuffins, but boy, by the second day, you have really trained them.
Well, no, we're all, it's those MSC LMSRs are almost 1,000 feet long. If that were a Navy ship, it would have 3,000 people on it. Wow! It's manned by 33 military secret mariners to get it from one side of the world to the other with the military supplies. After I lost that contract about 4 years ago, and since that time I've been focusing on civilian training. We teach self-defense level 1, 2, 3, and 4. Level 1 consists of the evolution of the law, 13A, which is the state code that governs use of deadly force, how to conduct yourself in a fight, what to do immediately when it's over with, how to get the cop in without getting shot, whether or not to make a statement, and then the play of the district attorney and the grand jury, and what the grand jury puts the most weight into trying to determine whether or not you've done something right or wrong. That completed, we go into the evolution of handguns, starting with black powder and going up through the P38. That completed, we do safety, and then marksmanship, and then we go out on the range and shoot 7 different handguns, to include revolvers and pistols. One of the things I'm really proud of is that I have everyone coming through that course shooting golf balls at about 15 feet. Right. They hit them. And that tells them 2 things. My teaching methods work, and the other thing it tells them is they can hit a small target.
Kind of a confidence builder, I thought.
Exactly.
Now, my one funny story about the M9, I had a great woman. She worked for, I think, the federal courts, and I was teaching on the M9. She right behind, she pulls that trigger. She screams and starts running after the fire. I thought she'd been shot. And I thought, if I don't get her back there, it's like falling off the horse. And I finally did.
Self-defense level 2 is shooting from 7 different positions. And that entails all of the second day of training. They shoot about 300, 350 rounds in that training. The third day, they come back and do that same scenario again. But it's amazing how fluid they are and how much they've learned that third day. And then we either do it that night, or the following night we do night fire. And in that, we use the night sights. We also use a flashlight. And there are 3 positions you use a flashlight with: over and under, cross arm, and then FBI. And I didn't really learn until I got out to Gunsight that FBI was the one that I can hit the target with. And I never ever thought it would be that way before I got out there and got the application of it. So those are the classes that I'm teaching down there.
Well, Gary, my question to you is, when someone racks a Mossberg 500, don't the bad guys just run away?
They don't always run away, but they sure know what they're getting into. Shotguns are very effective. So that's what we're doing down at Gunport. I enjoy doing it. That's all we do for a living, and we're there 7 days or 6 days a week. I'm there 6 days a week. I'm not there on Sunday, but the ranges are open on Sunday.
And if somebody comes down and hadn't purchased a handgun yet, you have several handguns they can rent. Is that correct?
We have pistols and revolvers that they can rent. And if you come down and go through my self-defense level 1 class, I'll have you shooting so many different handguns. You'll find out what feels comfortable with you, and what you can use. If you don't want to go that route, then you can come down and rent those same guns and take them out on the range and shoot them.
Or you can have your husband buy you a gun and give it to you.
He'll buy the one he wants,
That's right.
and then he'll gladly take it off your hands and then go buy something for you. Yeah, we know how both of those.
Yeah.
Well, I see that happen quite frequently.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, just a few minutes left for the show. Again, Gary, we thank you for joining us here in the studio. And at First Class Arms Training is actually where I got my start teaching firearm classes, and I appreciate that, Gary.
Well, me too.
Got a chance to not only get certified, but get a NRA law enforcement certification. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of my time there. I enjoyed being at the facility, and I just had a blast every day that I was there. So I appreciate that. Of course, learned a lot. Learned absolutely a lot. And when Gary says that he knows about firearms training, that is no lie.
Right. You always had good people there. I enjoyed everybody worked with. I mean, even the young man that would pick up brass. You had a knack for selecting those.
Gary, give us the website one more time and the phone number.
That's firstclassarmstraining.com or .org, or you can Google Gunport. Either one of those will take you to it. And our phone number is very, very difficult to remember. It's 824 is the southern part of the county, followed by 1776.
I like that, 1776. You
And
can't pick a better phone number than that.
And we're on One Defender's Way in Codian.
Yeah, One Defenders Way, Highway 188 in Codian, Alabama.
Thank you. Listen, thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate this, and I've enjoyed it.
No, we appreciate it. We enjoyed having you here. Of course, when you go down to
Hey, remember to go to YouTube and subscribe. We got 1,300 subscribers.
just keep ticking them on up.
Yep.
Of course, when you go to our YouTube channel there, of course, that's Armed Alabama. Be sure that you hit that little bell icon, and that way you subscribe to our channel, and that way you'll be notified every time that we post content. The judge posts a lot of content there. And of course, we post all of our shows, our live shows on YouTube there. Want to thank you so much for joining us here on Armed Alabama tonight. We look forward to seeing you next week, same bat time, same bat channel here on FM Talk 106.5.